My name is Nichole Dexter. I am here with Dr. TenBrock. I am a respiratory therapist, and we're going to discuss some sleep getting back to school for the kids. So one of the main questions is, what would you recommend now that we're starting the school year, kids getting back into a better sleep routine?
Exactly. After being around for the summer and then playing till all hours of the night and sleeping in late, a lot of parents are understandably concerned about how do they take that chaotic schedule and make it more conducive for going to bed early and waking up early and functioning well at school. And it's important to realize that it's best done over a period of at least a few days, not just maybe a week or two if you have the time, but not just the night before and then kick this big change into place. That's not going to be successful. The other thing that I often tell parents is that you have to understand how much sleep the children need. If, for instance, you're an adolescent, you might need 12 hours of sleep. And if you're a teenager in school, the ideal amount might be 10 hours of sleep with some variability. However, when you survey parents and how much sleep their kids have gotten, it's usually on the average of 2 to 3 hours less than that. So it really is important to compensate for that sleep deficit because it makes learning that much more difficult. New material is hard to acquire when you're sleep deprived. Decision making, or is it adversely impaired? So if they're doing sports or even trying to figure out an answer on a test, it's much more difficult to do that when you're sleep deprived. So that is, I think, that's very important to keep in mind.
Okay.
I think some of this you probably know yourself, being a parent of young children.
Yes.
And what tips have you found to be helpful?
Starting a bedtime routine 2 to 3 weeks earlier. As you know, you start slowly, keeping them away from electronics at nighttime makes a big impact on my daughter specifically. No cell phone, no iPad, no caffeine before going to bed.
Right.
That's what I tend to stay away from. Is it typically right to tell them all of that? Am I going in the right direction with keeping electronics away, not giving caffeine?
Absolutely, that is good. Making sure kids like to exercise, that's very good, especially since so many people are overweight. But when they exercise, it shouldn't be done right before bedtime because then they get more amped up and it's hard to go to sleep.
Okay.
So you should prepare to go to sleep, not just have things going at 100 miles an hour and then shut the light off and expect to have a good result. And of course, it always helps when the parent serves as a role model, doesn't it?
Correct. So I typically do go to bed at 9:30 with my children. I put myself to bed, not saying I follow all of the rules properly, but I'm at least in my bedroom while they're in their bedroom so that they know it's a normal bedtime. This is when we shut down the house. And then when they fall asleep, of course, parents can't typically go to bed that early. You can then get up and redo your own routine.
Do you find the older child has more difficulty going to bed earlier and waking up earlier than the younger child?
Correct, yes. She typically gets 10 hours sleep. She could probably get 12 to 14 if I let her. My younger one can go to bed later, get up earlier, no problems.
That is not uncommon. Teens, sometimes we call it a little delayed sleep phase, that they go to bed later, and they wake up later, and if you let them wake up at their own time, they're good to go, everything is great. But if you wake them up early and have them go to bed early, they end up staying awake in bed for a while, and then when you wake them up early, it's in the middle of their sleep. So they're very tired. And that's more common in older kids than younger kids, as your experience has shown. And that's important because there are some school districts that are taking the conventional time of the kids going to school and flipping them around so that they're letting the older kids go to have later school start times and the younger kids that are more pliable, earlier start times. And in places like San Diego in the past and some other places in the country that have looked at this, the improved grades in school are reflected by flipping.
So there are studies that prove that that is a good thing that we should be doing.
Yeah. Other things get in the way of doing that, but for school performance, it's that's what's desired.
Any suggestions you have for the older children to maybe fall asleep a little bit earlier, besides taking everything away sooner and eliminating the things that will keep their mind active? What could a parent do to help their child?
Avoiding evening light can help. Light is a stimulus that tells your body it's time to be awake, and that's why we wake up when the sun comes up, and that's when we're most productive. And when the sun goes down, our body, you probably heard the term melatonin, our body releases melatonin, which helps us go to sleep and brings the sleep time closer to us in phase advancing things. If you're around bright light at night, like bright light bulbs, your melatonin is suppressed.
Okay.
So, dim the lights, not so dim that you're tripping over yourself or anything, but just avoid bright lights in the evening.
So maybe laying in bed, if they do go to bed with a little bit of downtime, bedroom light on per se probably isn't ideal, but maybe like a night light type thing, read a book, relax, try to shut down a little bit sooner.
And you'll have success if you do that.
Okay. And then hopefully to get them up sooner, is there a way you can tell is a better time to wake them than to not wake them?
Well, it's hard to tell what stage of sleep they're in. I mean,
Correct.
if you did, the answer would be apparent. But many people have found that having them take some of the burden of early awakenings is a good way for them to be responsible, making sure there's a clock in their bed with they set the alarm, and stick to a routine so that you don't sleep in on Saturday and Sundays and stay up until 1 in the morning, because that just messes things up for the school week, and you don't get back into a cycle until Thursday or Friday, and then you're taking a step back over the weekend again. So regularity of wake time in particular is important.
It's very successful. So same bedtime, same wake time all school year would be ideally the right way to have success.
You have to be a little flexible, but that's the principle.
Okay. Sounds good to me for that tip.
Good. Well, thank you very much for asking.
Okay. Anything else you want to discuss with the parents? No? Okay.
That was just a conclusion,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for joining us, and then we will answer any questions that you may have in the future.